Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into something, well, something pretty wild. We're talking about the physicist Eric Weinstein and why his life's work exploring the history of physics has completely flipped his script on the whole UFO phenomenon.
So, let's get right into it. You have to understand, Eric Weinstein was a hardcore UFO skeptic for years. I mean, he couldn't stand the topic. To him, it was just total nonsense. Pure pseudoscience, not worth a moment of his time. But then, something changed. And it wasn't a small change. It was a profound shift in his entire worldview.
So, what was it? What could possibly make a mind like his do a complete 180? And what on earth does it have to do with a pop song from half a century ago? Well, the answer has nothing to do with little green men or flying saucers. It's about a much, much deeper problem. A mystery that's been haunting the world of physics for 50 years.
To really understand his take on UFOs, we have to first talk about what Weinstein calls the Great Stagnation. You see, for his entire career, he's been wrestling with this huge, unexplained problem. A massive, undeniable slowdown in fundamental physics.
I mean, just look at this timeline. It tells an absolutely incredible story. Between 1932 and 1973, our understanding of reality just exploded. We went from finding a new particle, the neutron, to testing a thermonuclear weapon. We literally harnessed the power of the sun. And then we finalized the Standard Model, our rule book for the entire universe. We were on fire. And then, crickets. For 50 years, nothing. No fundamental updates. The progress just stopped dead in its tracks. Weinstein has this brilliant analogy to help you grasp just how bizarre this is. He says to imagine the song "Tie a Yellow Ribbon Around the Old Oak Tree" being the #1 pop hit for 50 straight years. No new music, no changes, just that one song on repeat. That's what's happened in fundamental physics, a field that is supposed to be all about constant revolution. It's completely unprecedented.
So you gotta ask, right? How did a community filled with some of the smartest people on the planet just stall out so badly? Weinstein argues that it's not because they got dumber. No, he believes the answer is buried in a secret, kind of unbelievable history. A story that the physics community has done its absolute best to forget.
And that forgotten history takes us to a really weird place. We're going back to the 1950s, a time when a wave of what the scientific establishment considered total quackery started secretly funding its most brilliant minds.
It all started with these eccentric millionaires, guys like Roger Babson and Agnew Banson. They were obsessed with something that sounded like it was ripped from the pages of a sci-fi novel: defeating gravity. I mean, Babson literally declared a personal war on gravity after a family tragedy. And they didn't just talk about it. They poured their fortunes into funding the supposedly fringe research.
And get this, they were so serious about it. They were putting up actual monuments at major universities, like Tufts, with inscriptions carved in stone, basically dedicating themselves to the cause of controlling gravity. This wasn't some back alley operation. This was happening right out in the open for everyone to see.
Now here's where the story gets really juicy. The very families who were on their way to becoming physics royalty, people like the DeWitts and the Whittons, publicly, they dismissed all this anti-gravity talk as complete nonsense. But secretly, they were taking the money. They used the embarrassing cash from these foundations to fund their own quote-unquote legitimate research.
And according to Weinstein, this secret, embarrassing origin story, this hidden hypocrisy, it leads directly to that 50-year stagnation we see in physics today.
The field that was born out of this era is called quantum gravity. And for decades, it's been the most prestigious, most celebrated game in town. It's like a hot Silicon Valley startup that's raised billions of dollars and hired all the geniuses. But here's the problem. After all this time, it has never shipped a single product. It has never made one single testable prediction.
So here is Weinstein's explosive claim. Today's prestigious field of quantum gravity is just the laundered, academically respectable version of that fringe anti-gravity research from the 1950s. It's a field, he says, that's built on a foundation it refuses to acknowledge, which might be the very reason it's so hopelessly stuck.
And its undisputed leader, a man named Edward Witten, is often called the Michael Jordan of theoretical physics, a mind of just terrifying genius. And yet,
For all that brilliance, not one of his revolutionary ideas has ever been confirmed by a real-world experiment. It's all just stayed on the chalkboard.
So let's just pause for a second. If the most prestigious path in physics might actually be a dead end, one built on a history it's ashamed of, then where do we go from here? Well, this is where we finally get to Weinstein's own radical idea.
He's not just pointing out the problem, he's proposing a solution. It's an alternative theory he calls geometric unity, and he believes it has profound implications, not just for physics, but for the very future of humanity. At the heart of his theory is this mind-bending idea that Einstein's spacetime, the thing we all treat as the fundamental reality of the universe, is actually just a map. And if it's only a map and not the territory itself, then its rules can be bent. Maybe they can even be broken.
This opens up some truly mind-bending possibilities. If you can engineer the fabric of reality itself, you can manipulate the very tools we use to measure it. As Weinstein puts it, you could grow the ruler to shrink the distance. The journey to the nearest star wouldn't actually get shorter. Your measurement of it would. All of a sudden, interstellar travel goes from science fiction to an engineering problem.
Now, this isn't just an academic game for Weinstein. He argues that we have already developed godlike technological power from the old physics, like nuclear weapons, but we completely lack the wisdom to manage it.
For Weinstein, this is the ultimate bottom line. This is why it all matters. We're too powerful and too fragile to remain a single-planet species. He believes our long-term survival might literally depend on discovering a new physics that can help us build a lifeboat off this world.
Which brings us all the way back to where we started. A hidden history of physics, a 50-year stagnation, a potential lifeboat to the stars. What does any of this have to do with those strange objects in our skies?
Well, the logic is actually shockingly simple. If a physics beyond Einstein's is truly possible, a physics that allows for the engineering of spacetime itself, then it means two incredible things. One, we might actually have a path to the stars. And two, if we can figure out a way to get out, it means something else could have already figured out a way to get in.
This forces a profound shift in how we see ourselves. We study the world assuming we're the smartest things around, we're the scientists. But what if we're not? What if, as Weinstein says, we're the rat being studied in a maze that someone else built?
So, the final question Weinstein's journey leaves us with is this. Is the map of reality we've been clinging to for the last 50 years not a guide, but actually a prison? And if it is, what happens when we finally draw a new one?